My name is Ethan. I'm a rabbi across the park at Park Avenue Synagogue, and we're here to talk about my favorite topic, which is environmentalism. I think one of the best places to start when we're trying to think of roots of something, pun intended, is the beginning. So let's go at the very beginning and look at how human beings were created. So on the first page here, we've got the beginning story. So let's just, I gave you the first few verses and in the middle there just because, give us some context, right? In the beginning, God's creating, and God's creating lots of things. What's created first? Light. Great. Or maybe heaven and earth, depending on how you read verse 1, but okay. This is a whole area of mysticism we could get in. What's next? After light? Darkness. Okay, what's after that? We're getting into dualities. Then God goes through and creates the land. Earth gets created first. Then God looks at the earth and is like, hey, we're going to need some stuff on this earth. So God creates the trees and the what? The stuff, right. So God creates the trees and the rocks and the shrubs and the flowers and the all that stuff. And then God's like, this is great, but there's not enough furry things moving around. So then God creates all of the animals. Wonderful. Finally, in the end of chapter 1, we get 26, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the cattle, over all the earth, and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. And God created man in God's own image. In the image of God created him, male and female, God created them. This, by the way, is my translation, so the clunkiness is my fault. And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and master it, and rule the fish of the sea and birds of the sky, and all the living things that creep on the earth. Well, it's also old JPS translation. I wouldn't have said creep on the earth. But anyways. Okay, so what's going on here about the nature of human beings as we are created vis-a-vis the rest of the world? We are mastering and ruling the earth. What does that mean? So it's going to be food for us. It's whatever we want it to be. It's for us because we master and we rule it. We don't exactly know what it means, but we know that in Genesis 1's schematic of the world, right, we are on top, then come the animals, then come the plants and the this and the that, right? But we master and rule the earth. We are told that we are created in the image of God, B'Tselem Elokim. And part of being, just as God rules over the earth, or over all of us, or whatever, so too we are going to be like mini gods. And I like that part of that is about creating. So that is the way that human beings are created in Genesis chapter 1. Now, if you haven't heard this before, hold on to your hats. But human beings are created how many times in the Torah? Twice. That is right. Now, and I'm not trying to say anything heretical. There are many ways of explaining where the two stories come from, but I am more interested in the differences than I am interested in the way that the text got this way. So let's look at Genesis chapter 2 now. So I'm still reading. So when the Lord God made the earth and heaven, when no shrub or field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up for the Lord God. Okay, so where are we? This is an indication that we are sort of back now, right? This is not in chronological order from chapter 1, because all those things were already created in chapter 1. Maybe it was the Platonic ideal of grass that was created in chapter 1 and the actual grass that was created in chapter 2. That's what Ramban says. Whatever. He doesn't say Platonic ideal, but okay. Whatever it is, we're creating now. Then the Lord God formed man of dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Awesome. So we're creating it, by the way, this isn't necessarily about this, but differences in the way man is created in 1 and 2 already are? Well, it's just a guy, right? It's just a man. It's not Zachar Nekeva, right? It's not male and female. Great. Also, by the way, we get the idea of a soul in Genesis chapter 2. Again, whatever that means. I think it's Onkelos translates it as a speaking being, which is really like this great window into the mind of the rabbis that like, what does it mean to have a soul? Oh, you can talk. Like you can express yourself. But okay, again, not about that. Verse 8, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. By the way, interesting, so even in Genesis chapter 2, the creation of the earth still precedes the creation of human beings, right? Now, you could say that that's a practical thing because where else would they go? But it is just like, but you could imagine, I don't know why this is what comes to mind, but if anyone is a reader of Narnia, there are two human beings who show up in this world as it's being created. And so they're like standing and all of a sudden like ground shoots out beneath them and then they're like in this barren land and then trees start sprouting up and I mean it's a different creation, right? Human beings are first and then the earth. So C.S. Lewis versus the Torah. But now we've got garden first, and then the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden, and here again I helped you with the bold, to till and to tend. L'shomra u'le'ovda, right? Or ovda u'le'shomra, I think, sorry. To oved, to work, to something, service the land, and lishmor, to guard, to protect, to conserve, to preserve, to something like that, the earth. So what is the relationship that Genesis chapter 2 has set up for us between human beings and the earth? So, by the way, Ramban, one of the things he says is it's two different kinds of creation. The first one is sort of the theory of everything. When God's speaking, God is let there be this and let there be that. And it's like the blueprint, and Genesis 2 is working it out. So you could maybe say our souls were created b'tselem Elohim, our bodies are made of dust, right? Which sounds right to me. But what do we do with the two different charges? Genesis chapter 1 says, master and dominate. Genesis chapter 2 says, work and protect. So what do we do with that? So let me change so what Soloveitchik is saying, and what I'm saying then is, I guess we're teasing apart what's behind the nature of the charge given to Adam 1 and to Adam 2. If one were to act according to the Adam 1 model, it would be, what does this do for me, right? Selfish desire on the part of Adam to better his own position in relation to the environment, right? Kivshu implies tension. I love it. So this is like Adam 1, or the person being Adam 1 is going to look at a field and they're going to think like, what does this give me, right? What does it give me? Oh, I can cut down the trees for wood. I can use the lot to build a shopping mall. I can mine the ore beneath the land. I can, right? Whatever it is, like, how does this benefit me? By the way, just so I'm going to say this later, but Adam 1 isn't deplorable, right? Or reprehensible, right? It's not, I think, right? Adam 1 could, first of all, we need it, and we'll talk about that in a second. But second of all, it's not precluding Adam 1 from saying, you know what I need? I need a wildlife refuge where I can go and sit and whatever, right? But it's not that Adam 1 cares about the wildlife. Adam 1 cares about his own experience of being in the wildlife. Okay. The brute's existence is an undignified one because it is a helpless existence. Human existence is a dignified one because it is a glorious, majestic, powerful existence. So how does Adam 1 make himself feel glorious, majestic? What is it for Adam 1? Right, power over other things, right? That is what Adam 1 needs. Adam 1 needs to have power, to dominate, to master other things, other people. That is the way that Adam 1 is, secure. Okay? Let's look at Adam 2. Being redeemed is unlike being dignified. An ontological awareness, redemptiveness does not have to be acted out vis-a-vis the outside world. The individual intuits his existence as worthwhile, legitimate, and adequate, anchored in something stable and unchangeable. What on earth does that mean? Anyone? Let's take a second.
What does the word ontological mean?
Ontological means the study of the beginning, I believe, if I'm remembering my Greek correctly. And it is used in English to mean, or the study of being. Ontos means to be, not the beginning. And so it's like the essence, right? An ontological awareness would, if he didn't want to be so fancy, he could have just said an awareness of one's own self or something like that. So he adds here this idea of being redeemed, which is unlike being dignified. So there's something different. I'm not sure exactly what he means by this just yet, but there's something Adam too wants to be redeemed, not dignified. And it does not have to be acted out vis-a-vis the outside world. Adam too can feel redeemed in a box alone, apparently, right? Adam 1 can only be dignified in relation to other things. And Adam 2 can find something just internally, which is nice. Yes, and by the way, there could be a really beautiful overlay when you're preaching next Shabbos. You can talk about, right, Adam 1 is 6 days of the week, Adam 2 is Shabbat. Like, that's really nice. What else? I mean, this is actually, by the way, he says it in the next line. Cathartic redemptiveness is in contrast to dignity, cannot be attained through man's acquisition of control of his environment, but through man's exercise of control over himself. A redeemed life is ipso facto, switching from Greek to Latin now, a redeemed life is ipso facto a disciplined life, right? So Adam too is finding his redemption not in the way that he controls other things or people, but in the way that he controls himself. Interesting. Now, but I have to say, by the way, Soloveitchik is a brilliant man. This seems to be straying a little farther from the text of the Torah as I read it, right? Like, but I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying the dichotomy he's creating is there. But so let's just finish this last one. God summoned Adam the first to advance steadily, Adam the second to retreat. Adam the first he told to exercise mastery and to fill the earth and subdue it. Adam the second to serve. He was placed in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to keep it. Adam the second has never forgot that he is just a handful of dust. So now he's brought what into it? Some of the sort of personality type, I think, that goes into this. Some of the actions that are happening here. I don't know. How's this sitting? Adam 1 and Adam 2, you've all heard this before. You get it? Or radical? I don't know. Jeremy Benstein, who, in addition to me having his daughter at camp, is a really wonderful environmentalist in Israel, like doing amazing things. I think he's attached to Noot Kerumim, I believe, but I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. I think, but he's Jeremy Benstein, The Way into Judaism and the Environment. When I read this, it blew me away. Loved this. I had not recognized this. For instance, from what exactly are we meant to protect or guard the garden? Some say from wild animals or the less ordered, more chaotic world of nature outside the garden, right? Now that, by the way, I should say, is very present in Genesis 1. Because what is the earth before God starts creating? Tohu vavohu, right? Which we don't know what that means, but something like chaos and void. I don't know. Fine. But so there is sort of this, in Genesis 1, like chaos is like, like knocking on the door. Like there is this sort of feeling that if God were not there ordering the world, it would lapse back into chaos. And so maybe man as a master and dominator is there to protect us from chaos, right? There's a midrash, by the way. I don't remember where it's from. I don't know if it's a midrash, but I know it from the Maharal of Prague, who says that had the Jews not accepted the Torah in that moment, the world would have gone back to tohu vavohu, right? And that's why God had to hold the mountain over the people because the nature of the planet of all like creation was at stake. So there is maybe this feeling that we must like master in order to keep the world from slipping back into chaos. Okay, like that is maybe there. Let's go to the Gemara here. Rav Yosef said that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi once taught it is forbidden for a person to pour out water from his well as long as others may need it. So you're not allowed to destroy something as long as this comes as part of a whole sugya, which I didn't want to give you because there's a limit to our time here, about like sorry guys. A person can do whatever they want with bread. And they argue about this. Am I allowed to bake bread and use it as a coaster? Apparently they used to do that, right? Before you had trivets and the ability to make trivets, you would use kind of like crummy bread, like bread that wasn't good that you didn't want to eat. You would bake like a round disc and then put your pot on that. It was sort of, I mean, it's genius in a way, right? That was your trivet, but no one wants to eat the bread that like has had the gross pot sitting on it. So it was ruined, right? And there was a question, can you do that or not? Because you're destroying food. And Bal Tashchi, which is a different mitzvah, which has probably been talked about in a different class today, I hope, about you're not allowed to wantonly destroy the earth. So okay, by the way, the rabbis pretty much rule, like Rabbi Yossi is a strict, I can do whatever I want with my property, right? Everybody, I don't know what that would be in sort of the American legal political world, but like that's what he says is okay. So, but they put this limit on it. It is forbidden for a person to pour out water from his well as long as others may need it. And by the way, that's like okay. It might be that certainly I think in the Talmud, and Rabbi Diamond from the JTS might disagree with me on this one, and it's okay, but I think like certainly the world of the Talmud is only really concerned, even to the extent that it's concerned with the environment, for the sake of human beings, right? This sort of idea that like every rock and tree and squirrel is holy and sacred and should be like preserved is not present necessarily in like the way that the rabbis are thinking about the land. Like, by the way, it might not be present in the way that we think about the land. Like, I'm not, I'm talking about environmentalism, and there are many overlays into sort of today's political atmosphere and global warming, and that's, I think, why we're all talking about this right now and all of that. But I'm not necessarily saying one thing is better or worse than the other. But it is interesting to sort of think about, does our environmental ethic, is it about human beings, or is there an intrinsic good in the land? I don't know, right? The Torah might say yes, because God created it and said it was very good, right? The rabbis are kind of like, okay, then God can take care of it. If God likes it so much, then we're going to do whatever we want, and God's going to take care of it. But we, right, Benstein and the Talmud say, we have to look out for each other. Right, look, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and I went to Oberlin, all right? Like, I can only, my bias might be showing or whatever. And there is a way of reading Adam 2 as the good and Adam 1 as the bad. And I don't know what that says about our society, that's like what I don't know. Or maybe other people are sitting here thinking like Adam 1 is the man and Adam 2's, sucker. I don't know, right? But no, even Soloveitchik says, we need Adam 1, right? We wouldn't invent things without Adam 1. We wouldn't do anything without Adam 1. So I'm with you, right? I don't think it's Adam 1 versus Adam 2, or one is good and one is bad. I think it's just two ways of relating to other people and two ways of relating to the earth, right? Look, the other thing is when chaos comes knocking on the door, whether in the form of, natural disaster or the barbarian hordes or whatever, you want some Adam 1s. Like, you need some Adam 1s to help you build a wall and defend it and create it. Right? We need it. So we won't read the full Pope stuff, and I don't, again, I don't know about reading the Pope on the Jewish Day. It's nice. This is from, it's called an encyclical which is the second highest form of papal decree. Who knew? And it is meant encyclical, meaning because it's cycled around and within the bishops, and it is like a curriculum. Basically, this is the Pope saying, this is what I want you bishops to go around and teach, meaning then the priests, then to the people. It's sort of an educational document by the Pope. And the thing I wanted to point out in here is that he notes this exact same dichotomy that we did, right? That the rabbis do, that we like between 1 and 2. And then where does he basically say it? He basically says we need both, but that the world right now needs a little bit more Adam 2 than Adam 1. That's the sort of gist of it. You can read through the Pope if you like, but the idea that the Pope is saying is like, they're both good, they're both necessary, but like, you know, in a world, in a balanced ecological world, you know, we would have 40% Adam 1 and 60% Adam 2, or something like that, right? Like that's like what he's getting at, or maybe it's a balance or whatever, but he's got a call for Adam 2, and then with balance. So this is the idea that he says, right? Every Jew should carry 2 notes in their pocket, right? One that says, "For me the world was created," and the other that says, "I am but ashes and dust." I forgot to bring them. I have little cards that have them on one. I didn't want 2, so it's a flip side of each card. If anyone wants one, I apologize. I'll send you one in the mail or something. But why? Because if you're too sad, if you're too down, if you're too, you know, meek, then you got to read the note that says, "For me the world was created," right? That's, if you can go too far on the Adam 2 side, right? And then you need a note to bring you a little bit back. Like, "For me, the world is created." Like, I am the master of the universe. By the way, not just because it's important to remember that, but also because that's about taking on some of the responsibility that we have as being, you know, sort of the top of the evolutionary food chain currently. No offense, dolphins and blue whales or whatever, right? But like, that's... It, to just say, "Oh, I'm just a servant, is maybe even shirking some of the responsibility that dominion brings with it. But if you're getting too much on the like, "I'm the best, I'm so great, I'm whatever," then you've got to remember, I'm just dust and ashes, right? And a little bit of Adam 2 is good to remind ourselves of. So Aldo Leopold was when did he live? He was born in like 1880 something, lived until 1948 or so. He lived in Wisconsin. He was an environmentalist. He was a conservationist. He's the sort of founder of American conservationalism. He worked for the National Parks Department. He was a professor at the University of Wisconsin. And he lived on this farm in... Basically, that's why it's called Sand County. There's this middle part of Wisconsin that was over agriculturalized, and I don't know this stuff, guys. I'm a rabbi. But like, they lost whatever the right balance of was soil, so it wasn't so good for farming anymore. So he bought this farm real cheap, and he lived out there, and would then like drive into Madison to teach. And he wrote this awesome book called A Sand County Almanac. Which it's like poetic, it's beautiful, it's just him like describing his life out on this farm. It's just great, guys. But we can do this quick, but he takes it another step further. So I'll do this quick. We come now to another component. The perception of the natural processes by which the land and the living things upon it have achieved their characteristic forms, and by which they maintain their existence. That thing called nature study, despite the shiver it brings to the spines of the elect, constitutes the first embryonic groping of mass mind towards perception. Another guy who could turn a phrase. The outstanding characteristics of perception. So this is his thing, perception. That's the thing he thinks is going to save the planet. Perception, which for him is something like nature study, observing of the things that go into ecology and the natural world. The outstanding characteristic of perception is that it entails no consumption and no dilution of any resource. The swoop of a hawk is perceived by one as the drama of evolution. To another, it is only a threat to the full frying pan. The drama may excite 100 successive witnesses, the threat only one, for he responds with a shotgun. So what's he saying? You could say that this is forced, and I just wanted to get Aldo Leopold in here. But I think that he's talking about Adam 1 and Adam 2 here. He actually, by the way, points in a different part of the book, which maybe I should have brought. He actually points to that. He talks about the Abrahamic ecology. He's a little down on the biblical ecology. He doesn't think Abraham and the early is so good. He has a whole chapter in a book called The Forestry of the Prophets. And he talks about how Isaiah and Jeremiah were these great conservationists. But anyways, I think what he's saying is that when I see the hawk, right, I can either be like, wow, how beautiful is that? The evolution of the nature and the swoop and the pinions and the whatever and whatever. I don't know if hawks have pinions. I just know that's a kind of feather. But that, it's so gorgeous and I'm going to enjoy this. Or I can be like, stay away from my sheep. Boom, right? And what he's saying is that perception can be enjoyed 1,000 times. We are going to wrap up now, guys. But thank you for spending your time here. And I hope so, whether you're Adam 1 or Adam 2, and the radical amazement that'll get us to between the two of them. Guys, have a wonderful week.